Everyone remembers the ending of Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is still wide open. The fences are damaged, there are dead staff members who still haven't been recovered, and the most dangerous predators in the world are still out there on the loose. Jurassic Park doesn't end because they just leave the island. Oh no. There is so much going on behind the scenes that we don't even see in the movie, because the next movie takes place in 1997, but Jurassic Park ends in 1993. That's 4 years. So what has happened since then? Well, believe me, this is gonna blow your mind. In the novel version, it's pretty cleanly self-contained and explained. What actually happens in the novel, to end it cleanly, is that the Costa Rican government come along to Isla Nublar and they decide to napalm bomb the entirety of the island, meaning Isla Nublar was no more. There was no dinosaurs, no people, no evidence. Everything on that island got burned to an absolute crisp. Burns in Jurassic World. You see, there's several key things still happening. The T-Rex is free. The raptor situation is still unresolved because we had that raptor in the freezer. We'll come on to that later. There's still herbivores running around and unsecured. The fences are down. The power's basically down. What happened to the Barbasol can? What happened to the bodies? Did InGen return to the island? Did they abandon it? Did they try to cover her up? There is so much going on here. Who was actually left behind? You see, everyone obviously remembers the main survivors are leaving on their helicopter. What about all the staff, the dock workers, the maintenance teams? Now let's bring in Jurassic Park survival. This is going to give us our first look at what actually is going on the day after Jurassic Park fell. It's literally the next day. We know Dr. Maya Joshi is an InGen scientist and she was unable to evacuate for whatever reason. She was left on the island. We see that she has a radio. Now I'm assuming there's someone else at the other end of this radio, not a long-range transmission. I believe this is on this island. We also see several other raptors out and about from the trailer. That means there's more than one raptor, which we knew of anyway, because the raptors were out in the other paddocks breeding. So we already have one piece of crucial information already. There was several people still left on the island. But what about the bodies, the people we know that passed away during the events of the movie? Well, we know Ned ran to recover their bodies. Well, there's actually a deleted scene in the Lost World Jurassic Park. It basically explains that InGen was being sued for the loss of life in the...
Wrongful death settlements, partial list. Family of Donald Gennaro, $36.5 million. Family of John Arnold, $23 million. Family of Robert Muldoon, $12.6 million. Damaged or destroyed equipment, $17.3 million. Demolition, deconstruction, and disposal of Island Nublar facilities, organic and inorganic, $126 million. The list goes on. Research funding, media payoffs. Ooh, silence is expensive.
That tells me they obviously went back to the park at some point to recover them bodies or recover evidence. But here's the interesting thing. There was a canon site, the DPG website, which said there was an investigation into the island in 1994. That would be, what, 1 year after the events? That is way too long to leave that park unattended. So I'm telling you, they went back way before this 1994 cleanup operation. You wouldn't leave it an entire year. How would you answer to them families that they've been missing for a full year? Doesn't make sense. No, they went back before that. You see, many people don't even seem to realize that all this was taking place between the two movies. Hell, for the casual fan, you wouldn't even stop to think about it. You wouldn't even have a second glance at that raptor in the freezer, right? Remember? Will Lex and Tim lock that velociraptor in the freezer? You think, it's just going to freeze in there. Case closed. Well, Jurassic Park Survival actually shows us that that raptor in the freezer is going to escape because the door is open. And I know you're probably thinking, how could the door be open? It was locked, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go over that in this video because I did a full breakdown in this video here. I highly recommend watching it after this. And how that raptor in the freezer is the big one, and the big one survives and is going to return. So already we have some key takeaways, and we're nowhere near even finished. We've established people were on the island. We've established InGen has gone back before the cleanup operation to establish facts, recover bodies, and potentially destroy any further evidence. You see, what InGen were doing on that island was highly illegal. They would have likely sent a recovery team in days after that. After the storm, and they weren't walking into a theme park, oh no, they were walking into an absolute apocalyptic scenario here. Dead radios, blood trails, Nedry's body, you get the picture. And they weren't looking for people, they were likely looking for evidence. And some of these people on the island, wouldn't they be evidence themselves? Could they out InGen? Could the recovery team they send in actually be looking to terminate individuals who were left on that island. That turns this entire story on its head and would make Jurassic Park even darker than the story we got. Them teams which were sent in to recover evidence were also there to silence any potential witnesses. I mean, they could easily cover it up. They died to a dinosaur, right? They found their bodies. They could even feed their dead bodies to dinosaurs if they wanted to. That is extremely dark. But will 100% be going back for Nedry to find him dead or alive. They would also want to recover that Barbasol can, right? Obviously, that doesn't happen, but it does come back up in the canon show Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. It is a bit cliche in the way Dodgson actually finds it. He finds it like buried in the sand on a path, with the chances of that happening were completely like 1 in a million. Anyway, he finds it, and that's how we see that can in Jurassic World Dominion. Case solved, you don't need a 10-minute video on that. And remember how I mentioned the freezer raptor early on in the video and how it's obviously escaped and is going to reappear in Survivor? Well, there's something hugely important to this video we have to talk about. Now, I'm not going to go into huge depth, but remember the scene where they put the pin in the lock on the freezer? Well, someone would have had to remove that pin for the raptor to leave the freezer. Why would you do that, you ask? Well, think back again. Imagine it's an InGen employee. They want to kill the survivors. What better way to do it than unleash a raptor which was already contained to go out and potentially feed on these witnesses? Meaning InGen likely did send mercenaries or other people back to that island. We know in 1997 InGen is still operating, and operating quite successfully. They even want to bring the dinosaurs to San Diego with no scrutiny, so they must have covered up certain things and certain witnesses. So it's likely InGen's priority after. Then when they send the official recovery team in 1994, which is still way too late in my eyes, they can paint it as more of a disaster, something went wrong, and paint the entire thing on that horrible employee Nedry. They could set him up even more than needs be. InGen were just victims of the corporate espionage which resulted in the fatalities of all these people. Nothing to do with InGen at all, oh no. Because remember, they spared no expense. Nothing to do with the fact that they underpaid several of their employees, minimalistic staff, but they spare no expense. You see, what I always found strange was why didn't they just try and make the island safe once more? Track the dinosaurs, put them back in enclosures, make repairs. Why would you want to take them off the island? That's what I always found fishy. I mean, the majority of the infrastructure was still there. Sure, it'd need some repairs, but it'd be way more cost efficient to repair the stuff on that island, reopen it properly, than create an entire new facility in San Diego. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if everything was contained, no one knew about the past disasters, they open it from fresh because they'd silenced witnesses, bought them off, paid them off, whatever, paid off the family of the victims. No one would be none the wiser. No one even knew of the existence of this island before 1997 and the San Diego incident. But then I realised something. This is InGen, and all they were thinking about is greed and more money. And how can you get more money? Making it more accessible. And how do they do that? They bring the animals to them, to the shoreline. And that's exactly what the Lost World Jurassic Park was about. Hell, they even basically say what I just said. So in reality here, the ending of Jurassic Park becomes more of a question than anything else. And we just take it for granted because emotionally, it pays off that end and we think, oh, what a lovely story, self-contained, they've left the island, happy days. And emotionally, you leave on a high. But that ending becomes the beginning of something far darker and the beginning of InGen's cover-up over the next few years. That is until the San Diego incident in 1997, where they can't cover up anymore. That is what happened to Jurassic Park after it ended. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe for plenty more Jurassic and dinosaur mysteries on the channel. There's loads. I highly recommend watching these videos on screen now. Massive thanks to my InGen research team who are on screen as well. I couldn't do it without your support, and thank you for watching till the very end. And if you decided you wanted to get some ice cream one day, open the freezer, could your day get any worse? You bet Jurassic can. Catch you later.